A poor waiter returned a lost purse, then discovered it belonged to the judge of his case. "Excuse me, did someone lose a purse?" The quiet voice of a 19-year-old waiter drifted across the marble lobby of the Skyline Grand Hotel, cutting through polished laughter like a snapped violin string. Heads turned, pearls paused mid-air, cufflinks caught the chandelier's light, and 100 eyes found Marcus Hale, slim in a too-big tuxedo jacket, a scuffed server's tray trembling in one hand and a black leather purse held like a book in the other. "Security," a platinum blonde woman hissed, already offended by the interruption. Sloan Whitmore, chair of tonight's Future of Justice Gala, glided forward with the controlled smile of someone who owned the room and the narrative. "Staff are not to approach guests," she said sweetly. "Leave lost items with concierge." Marcus didn't move. "Ma'am, I watched a man drop this near the elevator. He left in a hurry. It felt wrong to wait." His voice wasn't loud, but it carried. He stood a breath inside the velvet rope dividing servers from patrons, an invisible border drawn by money and habit. Near the back, a silver-haired man lowered his glass. Daniel Roth, former federal prosecutor turned legal scholar, tracked the kid's posture, the way he protected the purse from both greed and suspicion. There was steadiness there, the kind he'd seen in young public defenders who worked miracles on no budget. "Let me see," Sloan said, extending lacquered fingers. Before Marcus could respond, a calm alto answered from the mezzanine stairs. "That won't be necessary." Judge Evelyn Carr descended, the kind of composure that silences a room. "That purse is mine." A ripple of astonishment. Marcus exhaled, relief and dread colliding. Because the last name on his court summons, tomorrow at 9 a.m., was Carr. The lobby seemed to tilt when Judge Evelyn Carr reached the bottom step. At 62, she carried herself with the elegance of authority, silver hair swept into a chignon, her black gown cut with understated sophistication. Conversations hushed as she walked, each step echoing against marble like the gavel she was known for. Marcus stood frozen, his throat dry. He had seen her face before, not here among crystal chandeliers and glittering gowns, but on the front page of the New York Daily, under the headline, "Judge Carr to oversee controversial assault case." His case. She extended her hand. "Young man, may I have my purse?" Marcus hesitated, every instinct screaming caution. Returning it meant revealing himself. Holding it back could look suspicious. He placed it gently in her palm, trying to avoid her eyes. "Thank you," she said, studying him with a flicker of curiosity. "What is your name?" The crowd leaned in. Even the string quartet paused mid-tune. For them, this was unexpected entertainment, a poor waiter stepping into the center of their glittering world. "Marcus," he whispered, forcing a smile. "Marcus Hale." Her gaze sharpened, the kind of look that cuts through excuses. She had heard that name only yesterday, in the file she reviewed. A defendant from East Harlem, charged with assault after defending himself in a bodega scuffle. Before she could speak again, Sloan Whitmore interjected with laughter edged in disdain. "Isn't it charming? The help thinks he's part of the gala." The guests chuckled on cue, eager to follow her lead. But Judge Carr didn't laugh. Instead, she closed the clasp of her purse slowly, deliberately, as though sealing a decision. "Marcus Hale," she repeated. "We will speak again. Very soon." The chandelier light flared above him, and Marcus knew, his secret was no longer safe. The air in the Skyline Grand thickened after Judge Carr's words. Guests leaned into each other, murmurs swelling like the hum before a storm. Marcus could feel the stares pressing into his back, every pearl-strung woman and sharp-suited man suddenly hungry for scandal. Security should have removed him the moment he spoke, one man muttered, swirling his scotch. Imagine, bringing criminal defendants into charity galas. What's next? Marcus clenched the tray against his chest. He hadn't come looking for trouble, he'd only wanted the extra shift. Tips from these kinds of events could mean groceries for a week, maybe even the bus fare he needed for court tomorrow. But now the whole room knew his name. Sloan Whitmore was savoring it. She stepped closer, her perfume sharp and cold. "Well, Judge Carr," she said loudly enough for the nearby tables to hear, "isn't it poetic? The very boy standing trial tomorrow turns up at your event tonight. Carrying your purse. Gasps fluttered through the lobby like startled birds. Judge Carr's face betrayed nothing, though her eyes lingered on Marcus with unsettling weight. Coincidence has a peculiar sense of timing, she said calmly. But I see no crime in returning what was lost. Marcus lowered his gaze. Still, his hands shook. They didn't know the full story, that the charge against him wasn't about violence, but survival. That night in the bodega, he hadn't thrown the first punch. He had been protecting someone. Leave him be, a gravelly voice said from the corner. It was Daniel Roth, the retired prosecutor, rising slowly from his chair. His presence carried authority still. The boy did a decent thing tonight. But Sloane smirked, eyes glinting. Decency doesn't erase the law. And just like that, Marcus realized tomorrow's courtroom battle had already begun, here, under chandeliers and whispers. When the gala finally thinned, Marcus lingered by the service doors, hoping to slip out unseen. The night had been too long, every laugh at his expense echoing in his skull. He clutched his empty tray like a shield, waiting for the manager to dismiss him. But then came the sound of heels, measured, deliberate. Judge Evelyn Carr stepped out from the dim corridor leading to the private lounge. Her presence made the hallway shrink. Marcus Hale, she said, her voice low but firm. His chest tightened. He wanted to run, yet his legs locked in place. Yes, Your Honor. She studied him for a long moment, her purse clutched tightly under her arm. Do you know the weight of what you carry into my courtroom tomorrow? Marcus swallowed. Yes, ma'am. More than anyone here could imagine. A flicker of something, surprise, maybe respect, passed across her face. You returned my purse when you could have disappeared with it. Do you know what that tells me? That I'm not the thief they think I am. His voice cracked despite his best effort. Her eyes softened, but only for a breath. It tells me you value integrity, even when no one believes in you. That will matter tomorrow. Marcus looked down at his worn shoes, shame and relief battling inside him. The truth doesn't always save people like me, he muttered. Carr's jaw tightened. Maybe not. But lies never do. She took a step closer, lowering her voice. Be ready. Tomorrow, everyone will see you, not just the file in my hands. Before he could reply, she turned sharply, her heels clicking back into the glow of the gala. Marcus exhaled, trembling. Tomorrow wasn't just a trial anymore. It was a reckoning. The subway rattled Marcus back to East Harlem, its fluorescent lights buzzing like tired bees. He leaned against the cold window, the tuxedo jacket loaned by the hotel clinging awkwardly to his frame. Every glance from strangers felt heavy, as if they knew he'd just stood face to face with the judge who would decide his fate. By the time he pushed open the cracked door of his family's apartment, the smell of reheated spaghetti drifted through. His mother, Denise Hale, stood at the stove, her hair tied back with a faded scarf, her shoulders weary from 12-hour nursing shifts. She turned, her face softening with relief. You're late again, she said gently. Was it the gala shift? Marcus nodded, hanging the tux jacket over a chair. His younger brother, Caleb, barely 14, sat at the small kitchen table with textbooks spread like barricades. He looked up, worry flickering in his wide eyes. They know, Ma, Marcus whispered. Judge Carr, she knows who I am. The room stilled. Denise set down the ladle, her hands trembling slightly. And what happened? She looked at me. Like she was already weighing the scales. Denise stepped closer, cupping his face in her palms. Marcus, your father used to say something, character is what you do when no one is watching. Tonight you returned that purse. That's your character. Don't you forget it. But Marcus's chest ached. Character doesn't pay bail, Ma. It doesn't erase a charge when they've already decided what you are. Caleb shut his book with a snap. Then prove them wrong. Make them see you, not just the file. Marcus met his brother's eyes and felt a surge of strength. Tomorrow, the courtroom would test more than his innocence, it would test the weight of his family's hope. Morning light slanted through the tall windows of Manhattan Criminal Court, gilding the cold stone walls in a deceptive glow. Marcus walked in with his public defender, Avery Collins, a young woman with quick eyes and a briefcase that looked too heavy for her slight frame. Every step echoed like judgment, drawing stares from reporters lining the hallway. Inside the courtroom, the divide was stark. On one side sat Marcus's mother, Denise, clutching her purse in both hands, Caleb seated beside her in a borrowed shirt and tie. A few neighbors from their building had come, their faces tight with worry. On the opposite side sat the complainant, Victor Greer, a stocky man with a swollen jaw and expensive suit. His supporters whispered with smug certainty, as though the verdict had already been written. The bailiff's call rang out, "All rise." Judge Evelyn Carr entered, robes flowing, her expression composed but unreadable. Marcus's stomach churned. He had seen that same face last night, softened by private words in a hotel hallway. Now it was carved in stone. The opening arguments began. Greer's attorney painted Marcus as a street thug who attacked an innocent man in a neighborhood store. He spoke of lawlessness and reckless youth, words sharpened to cut. Laughter flickered among Greer's supporters. Then Avery rose, adjusting her blazer. Her voice was firm, steady. "Ladies and gentlemen, what the prosecution won't tell you is that Marcus Hale acted to protect a store clerk, an elderly man who was being assaulted. He did not pick this fight. He tried to stop it." Gasps rippled. Even Greer shifted uncomfortably in his chair. Marcus's hands trembled under the defense table, but Judge Carr's eyes flicked toward him for a split second. Not with disdain. With calculation. The battle had begun. The first witness was called, Mr. Harold Klein, the frail bodega owner with stooped shoulders and trembling hands. He shuffled to the stand, his voice wavering as he swore the oath. The courtroom leaned forward. This was the man Marcus had risked everything to protect. "Mr. Klein," Greer's attorney began smoothly, "isn't it true my client was a paying customer in your store that night?" Klein nodded hesitantly. "Yes, he bought cigarettes." "And isn't it true that Marcus Hale struck him, unprovoked?" Klein's hands fumbled with his glasses. "That's not what I saw," his voice trailed, eyes darting nervously toward Greer. The attorney pressed. "You were frightened. Confused. How can we trust your memory?" Silence hung heavy. Marcus's chest tightened. If Klein folded now, the case was lost. Then Avery stepped forward for cross-examination. "Mr. Klein, please tell the court what Victor Greer said before Marcus intervened." Klein swallowed hard. His voice, though shaky, carried conviction. He called me a thief. Said I cheated him. He grabbed me by the collar. That's when Marcus stepped in. He pulled Greer off me. That's the truth." A murmur rippled through the courtroom. Greer shifted, his face flushing red. Next, Greer himself was called. He swaggered to the stand, smirking at the jury. "That kid blindsided me. I never touched the old man." Avery's eyes narrowed. "So you deny raising a hand to Mr. Klein?" "Absolutely," Greer replied. But as he spoke, Marcus caught Judge Carr's gaze. She was watching not Greer's words, but his fists, clenched tight, knuckles whitening. She noted every twitch, every flash of arrogance. The testimony ended, but the air was charged. For the first time, doubt shadowed the case against Marcus. The courtroom door creaked open just as Judge Carr prepared to call the next recess. A bailiff hurried forward, whispering into Avery Collins's ear. Her brows arched, and she rose. "Your Honor, the defense calls a new witness, Detective Raymond Cole." The name sparked murmurs. Greer stiffened. His lawyer shot a glance that almost hissed objection, but Judge Carr raised her hand. "Proceed." Detective Cole strode to the stand, a tall man with a weathered face, his badge gleaming against a navy suit. Sworn in, he leaned toward the microphone. "Detective," Avery began, "were you on duty the night of the incident at Klein's Market?" "Yes, ma'am." "I responded to the call." "What did you find when you arrived?" Cole's tone was matter-of-fact. Mr. Greer was agitated, shouting at Mr. Klein. Mr. Hale was holding him back. Witnesses outside confirmed Marcus had pulled Greer off the shopkeeper before things got worse. Gasps swirled through the room. Greer's face turned crimson. His lawyer leapt up. Objection. This is hearsay. Overruled, Judge Carr said, her gavel striking once. Her eyes, sharp and steady, pinned Greer to his seat. Avery pressed on. Detective, did you file a report? I did. But later that night, the official record I submitted was altered. The part about Greer assaulting Mr. Klein was missing. The jury shifted uneasily. Reporters scribbled furiously. Are you suggesting evidence was tampered with? Avery asked. Cole nodded. Yes. Someone with influence. His gaze flicked toward Greer. The courtroom exploded in whispers. Marcus sat stunned, his pulse pounding. For the first time, the truth was no longer just his word against Greer's, it was written in the cracks of the justice system itself. Judge Carr rapped the gavel again. Order. Order in this court. But the balance had shifted. Everyone knew it. The courtroom was electric, every eye fixed on Judge Evelyn Carr, reporters' pens scratched feverishly, capturing what was fast becoming more than just a small assault case, it was a revelation of corruption. Greer's attorney sputtered objections, his voice rising like a drowning man. This is outrageous. Hearsay, speculation, Detective Cole's credibility should be questioned. Sit down, counselor, Judge Carr's voice thundered, her gavel striking with finality. The echoes silenced even the whispers in the gallery. She turned her gaze to the jury. You are to consider sworn testimony and sworn testimony alone. And I advise you to weigh not only the words spoken but the conduct you have observed. Marcus's chest felt tight, every breath jagged. He thought of his mother clutching her purse, of Caleb's desperate faith, of the night in that bodega when he couldn't watch an old man be crushed beneath someone else's rage. Avery rose for closing arguments, her tone fierce yet steady. Ladies and gentlemen, Marcus Hale is not on trial because of what he did. He is on trial because of who he is, a young black man from a poor neighborhood. But the truth has survived tonight. You heard Mr. Klein. You heard Detective Cole. Marcus acted with courage when no one else would. Greer's lawyer barked a rebuttal, painting Marcus as reckless, dangerous, unfit for society. But even as he spoke, jurors glanced at Greer, whose arrogance seeped through every gesture, every sneer. Judge Carr dismissed the jury to deliberate. The benches creaked as they filed out, tension hanging heavy in their wake. Marcus closed his eyes. In that silence, every second felt like a lifetime. He wasn't just waiting for a verdict. He was waiting to learn if truth still had a place in this city's justice. The jury's return felt like the toll of a cathedral bell, slow, deliberate, impossible to ignore. Marcus rose with trembling knees, his mother's hand brushing his back for strength. Caleb stared at the jurors, his lips moving in silent prayer. Judge Carr's eyes swept the courtroom before fixing on the foreperson. Has the jury reached a verdict? Yes, Your Honor. The paper unfolded with a sound louder than thunder in Marcus's ears. The foreperson cleared his throat. In the matter of the state versus Marcus Hale, we, the jury, find the defendant, a pause stretched, cruel and infinite. Not guilty. The words shattered the silence. Denise gasped, covering her mouth with trembling hands. Caleb leapt to his feet, tears streaming freely. Even Harold Klein let out a sob of relief. Greer exploded from his chair. This is a farce, he bellowed, pointing at Marcus. He belongs in jail. Judge Carr's gavel cracked down, sharp as lightning. Sit down, Mr. Greer. One more outburst and you'll find yourself held in contempt. Her voice was steel. This court has spoken. Marcus sank into his chair, dizzy with release. For the first time in months, his chest expanded without the weight of chains pressing against it. He turned to see Judge Carr watching him, not with pity, not with superiority, but with a quiet recognition. She leaned forward slightly, her voice pitched low but firm. Mr. Hale, tonight you taught this court something. Justice is not measured in wealth, but in truth. Marcus nodded, Words caught in his throat. As the courtroom emptied, Denise wrapped him in her arms, Caleb at their side. They walked out into the city night together, not as defendants, not as survivors, but as a family carrying the proof that even against prejudice, truth could still win.